Picture a Sunday morning. Maybe you have sat in one. The congregation stands. The pastor bows his head. And then 1,000 voices rise together in perfect unison, reciting the same words they have recited every Sunday since childhood. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It is beautiful. It is familiar. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you feel the warmth of tradition, the comfort of words spoken across centuries, across continents, words that connect you to your grandmother, to pilgrims, to medieval monks, to ancient believers you will never meet. Now here is the question almost no one stops to ask. Did Jesus ever tell us to say those words? Let me set the scene. It is the Sermon on the Mount. Somewhere between 28 and 30 AD. Jesus is teaching a large crowd on a hillside near Capernaum. The sermon covers everything: anger, adultery, oaths, enemies, money, anxiety. It is arguably the densest, most radical teaching in the entire New Testament. And in the middle of it, he turns his attention to prayer. But here is what most people skip. He does not simply say, "Here is how to pray." He first says, "Here is how not to." Jesus tells his disciples not to pray like the hypocrites who love to stand in the synagogues and on the street corners, praying out loud so everyone can see them. And then he adds something that should stop every Christian cold. He says, "When ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking." Matthew 6:7. Vain repetitions. That is the precise phrase Jesus uses to describe the wrong way to pray. Mindless repetition. Empty words recycled out of habit. Saying the same thing over and over without thought or engagement. And then, in almost the very next breath, he gives them the Lord's Prayer. Do you see the problem? If the Lord's Prayer is meant to be repeated word for word, every Sunday, every morning, every Mass, then Jesus essentially warned against doing the thing he was about to command. That would make him contradict himself inside of 6 verses. And that is not the kind of teacher Jesus was. So something else is going on here. Look at the actual words Jesus uses to introduce this prayer. Not the prayer itself. The sentence before it. In Matthew 6:9, the King James Bible reads, "After this manner therefore pray ye." After this manner. Not, pray these words. Not, say this prayer. Not, memorize this and repeat it. After this manner. In this fashion. Using this structure. Following this pattern. The original Greek word is hutos. It means in this way or in this manner. It is the same word you would use if someone asked you how to bake bread and you said, "Do it like this," and then showed them the technique, not gave them the exact loaf. Jesus was handing them a blueprint. A template. A lesson in the shape and architecture of real prayer. The Lord's Prayer is not a prayer. It is a school of prayer. And here is the detail that changes everything. Jesus could not pray this prayer. Think about that for a moment. One of the lines reads, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." Jesus, whom the New Testament explicitly states had no sin, Hebrews 4:15 calls him one who was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin, could not have prayed this petition. He had no trespasses to confess. If you want to read Jesus' actual prayer, the one time Jesus himself spoke to his Father at length, in his own words, from his own heart, you have to go to John chapter 17. Not Matthew 6. In John 17, on the night before his crucifixion, Jesus lifts his eyes to heaven and prays. And what he prays is nothing like the Lord's Prayer in form or vocabulary. It is personal, agonized, specific, theological. He prays for himself. He prays for his disciples by name. He prays about glory and unity and the world and his mission. That is Jesus' prayer. The Lord's Prayer belongs to us. And the fact that it was built for us, not for him, tells us what kind of thing it actually is. It was always a model. Always a template. Always a structure meant to be inhabited and personalized, not recited like a liturgical formula. So what is the template teaching us? If you look at the 6 movements of the Lord's Prayer, each one represents a category, a type of prayer conversation that a believer should be having regularly with God. The prayer opens with address, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Before you bring a single request, you orient yourself. You remind yourself who you are talking to. Not a vending machine. Not a distant deity. A Father. In heaven. Holy. This is the prayer of orientation, of remembering the nature of the relationship before asking anything of it. Then comes surrender, Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. This is not a passive wish. This is an active alignment. You are saying, I want what you want. Your agenda, not mine. Your timeline, not mine. Then comes dependence, give us this day our daily bread. Not weekly bread. Daily. The rhythm is daily. The posture is dependence. Then comes confession, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. The measure of mercy you extend to others is the measure you are inviting God to extend to you. That is not soft theology. That is a warning. Then comes protection, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And then comes praise, for thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. You started with who God is. You end with who God is. The prayer is a circle. Everything you brought to it, your needs, your failures, your fears, your alignment, all of it rests inside the frame of His sovereignty. He has the kingdom. He has the power. He has the glory. You have everything you need. Now think about what gets lost when we reduce this template to a recitation. When you say Our Father, which art in heaven on autopilot, when the words come out of your mouth while your mind is already somewhere else, you have not oriented yourself. You have not remembered who you are speaking to. You have performed a sound. A ritual. You have done exactly what Jesus warned against in the 6 verses before He gave you this template. The Lord's Prayer, recited without engagement, is the very vain repetition it was designed to replace. You are holding a skeleton. A frame. A structure that was meant to be filled with your actual voice, your actual life, your actual needs and failures and fears. The skeleton does not breathe on its own. You have to breathe into it. Our Father, do you mean that? Does it change how you feel to say it? There is something else buried in this passage that very few people notice. Jesus introduced the Lord's Prayer by telling His disciples to go into a private room, to close the door, and to pray to their Father who sees in secret. Matthew 6:6. The original context for the Lord's Prayer is not a congregation standing in a sanctuary. It is one person, alone, in a quiet room, with the door shut. You may have said the Lord's Prayer 1,000 times. Maybe more. Here is a question worth sitting with. How many of those times were prayers? Not recitations. Not rituals. Not tradition. Prayers. Moments of actual contact. Where you meant Our Father and felt what it meant to be His child. Where you meant Thy will be done and felt the weight of releasing your own agenda. Where you meant forgive us our trespasses and actually brought something specific, a name, an act, a guilt you have carried longer than you should have. Jesus did not give His disciples a prayer to memorize. He gave them a map. A map for finding their way into an honest conversation with a God who is listening. The question has never been whether you know the Lord's Prayer. The question is whether the Lord's Prayer knows you. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video and found it meaningful. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing, sharing the video, and leaving a comment below. Your support and feedback truly encourage us and help motivate us to create more thoughtful videos like these. Thank you for being part of the journey.